The exciting request from Zidane to Messi after becoming France's coach. What you just heard is not just any headline. It's the bomb that has blown up the world of football in the last few hours, and that has half the planet speechless. Zinedine Zidane, the man who won everything as a player and as a coach, the genius of Marseille, the ball magician, has just done something that no one expected. I swear to you that when you hear everything he said, you're going to get goosebumps. But wait, because that's not all. Because in this video, I'm not just going to tell you word by word what Zidane said to Messi. I'm not just going to reveal the most intimate details of that message, but I'm also going to bring you the most controversial statement that has been heard in weeks. Luis Diaz's interview where he says, without cutting a hair, that Messi is much better than Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, you heard it right. Much better. And the reasons he gives are a real bomb. All that, with all the details, with all the exact phrases, I'm going to tell you in this video. So don't move from here. Don't touch that screen. Because what's coming is the videos that are shared and that generate debate for weeks. And before we get into it, let me put you in context. Because to understand the magnitude of what has happened, you have to first understand the magnitude of what Messi represents. We're not talking about one more footballer. We're not talking about one more crack that's retiring. We're talking about the player who has changed the sport forever. The man who has done things with a ball that had never been seen before and that probably won't be seen again in decades. 8 golden balls. 8. Think about that for a moment. 8 times he was chosen as the best footballer on planet Earth. For Champions League. A World Cup that was worth more than all the others together because it was the one he lacked, the one they asked for to close the debate. More than 800 goals as a professional. More than 300 assists. Records that seem made up. Statistics that seem like video games. Leo Messi is not a footballer. He's a phenomenon of nature. He's the guy who grabbed the ball in the middle of the field and the rivals didn't know what to do anymore. Because they knew something magical was going to happen. Something impossible. Something they were going to see in the summaries for the next 50 years. And now that man, that genius, has said enough. He said it's over. He's gone public. He's looked at the camera and he said the words that no football lover wanted to hear. That his career is coming to an end. That he's already fulfilled his mission. That he feels he's given everything he had to give and that his body asks him to stop. That he's tired. Not tired of playing, which is what he likes the most in the world. Tired of everything that surrounds football at this level. Of the injuries that take longer to heal. Of the endless trips. Of the pressure that never weakens. Of a body that is already 39 years old and that, no matter how much it is, that of Messi has a limit. And Messi feels that he has reached that limit. Can you imagine what that means? Can you imagine a football world without Leo Messi? Because I tell you one thing, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to imagine a Sunday afternoon without the possibility of seeing Messi make one of his own. It's hard for me to think that there won't be any more of those impossible goals. Of those plays that make you get up from the sofa and scream like crazy. We've been watching him for more than 20 years. More than 20 years enjoying the best individual show that football has ever given. And now he tells us he's leaving. Like that, without more. As if it were easy. As if the world of football could keep spinning the same without him. But this is where the story gets really interesting. This is where the big stuff begins. Because when Messi made that announcement, when those words came out of his mouth and went through all the media on the planet, there was someone who didn't stay quiet. There was someone who picked up the phone, who looked for a way to get a message, and who said something so powerful, so full of emotion and respect, that he left everyone speechless. And that someone was Zinedine Zidane. And it wasn't just any message. It wasn't a tweet of those generic ones that footballers post when someone leaves. It wasn't a thank you for everything with an emoji of applause. No, it was something much deeper, much more personal, much more brutal. And I promise you that when I tell you in full, when you hear exactly what Zidane asked Messi and the reasons he gave him, you will understand why this moment has moved millions of people. But I'm not going to tell you yet. Not yet. Because first you have to understand everything that surrounds this story. First you have to know how we got here. Think about what Zidane's relationship with Messi has been over the years. 2 absolute geniuses. 2 men who have defined different times in football. Zidane was the king of the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st. That volley control in the 2002 Champions League final in Glasgow is, for many, the best goal in the history of the finals. Those pipes, those roulettes, that elegance that looked like from another planet. Zidane didn't play football, he did art. And then came Messi. And Messi took that art and took it to another level. He did it faster, more lethal, more constant. If Zidane was a symphony at specific times, Messi was a symphony every weekend for 2 consecutive decades. And Zidane knows it. Zidane, who is a man of few words, who rarely gives long interviews, who is not one of those who come out to give an opinion on everything, has always recognized, always, the greatness of Messi. Even in the most intense years of rivalry between the 2 largest clubs in Spain, when the tension between the 2 fans was maximum, Zidane never disrespected Messi. Never. On the contrary, whenever they asked him, whenever a journalist put the eternal debate in front of him, Zidane said what he thought. And what he thought was that Messi was extraordinary. And now, at this specific moment in history with Zidane, the recently named France coach after the World Cup in 2026, with all the focus on him and in his new stage as coach of one of the most powerful teams on the planet, he goes and does this. He goes and deviates from his agenda, from his obligations, from everything he has on him to send a personal message to Messi. Why? What made him do it? What did Zidane feel when he heard that Messi wanted to retire? That's exactly what I'm going to tell you. But wait, because before I get there, I need you to understand something else. I need you to understand what the World Cup in 2026 meant for Messi. Because what Messi did in that tournament was, for many, the definitive confirmation of his greatness. Remember, Messi had already won the World Cup in Qatar in 2022, in that legendary final against France, in that game that many consider the best in history. But in 2026, at 39 years old, Messi wore the Argentine jersey again. He put the number 10 on his back again, and he did something extraordinary again. At his age, with his legs already punished for more than 2 decades at the highest level, he remained decisive. He continued to make a difference. He remained that player everyone wanted to see, that everyone feared facing, that everyone respected. And that's what Zidane saw. That's what moved him. Yes or no? That's what led him to do what he did. You know what? There's something that really catches my attention about all of this. And it's that Zidane didn't have any obligation to say anything. Think about it. Zidane has just been named French national team player. He has a new job, a huge responsibility, a squad to manage, a federation that observes him, a French press that will analyze every word. The last thing he needs is to get into a media debate about the retirement of an Argentinian player. And yet he does it. And he does it because there's something that goes beyond football, beyond the rivalries, beyond the colors. There's a respect between geniuses that transcends everything else. There's a mutual admiration that only those who have been at the top of this sport understand. And I'll tell you one thing. For me, as a football fan, that's the most beautiful thing about this story. That in a world where everything is rivalry, where everything is, I'm better than you, where social media is full of hate and absurd debates, 2 of the greatest in history show that level of respect. It's exciting. It really is. But, well, don't go yet. Because now comes the good stuff. Now we're going to get right into what Zidane said. In every word. In every detail. Because I promised I was going to tell you everything. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then, after telling you about Zidane, I'm going to bring you the Luis Diaz bomb. That interview where he says that Messi is much better than Cristiano Ronaldo. And I assure you that the reasons he gives are to generate a monumental debate in the comments. Let's go with Zidane. Let's go with the request that has moved the whole world. Zidane, after being confirmed as the new coach of the French national team after the 2026 World Cup, held a press conference in which, as expected, they asked him about everything. About his tactical plans, about which players he was going to call up, about his relationship with the federation, about Mbappé, about the future of France. But at a given moment, a journalist asked him about Messi, about Messi's decision to retire. And there, in that instant, something changed on Zidane's face. He stopped being the serious coach, the technician who measures every word, and became a lover of football, a man who feels this sport in a way that few can understand. And what he said was this. Zidane started by saying that when he found out about Messi's decision, he felt a deep sadness. Just like that, without beating around the bush, sadness. He said that he understood the decision, that the body has a limit and that every player knows when his has arrived, but that it was hard for him to accept it. And then he launched the request that has gone around the world. Zidane looked at the camera, took a second, and said that he was asking Messi to reconsider it, that he rethink his decision, that he not hang up his boots yet. And the way he said it, pay attention to this, was brutally emotional. Zidane said that for him, watching Messi perform inside a football field has always been one of the greatest pleasures that this sport has given him. One of the greatest pleasures. Think about who says that. Zidane says it. Man who has played Champions League finals, who has won World Cups, who has coached the best on the planet. A man who has seen all the stars of the last 3 decades play from the front row. And he says that watching Messi play is one of his greatest pleasures. That is not just any compliment. That is a declaration of absolute admiration from one genius to another genius. But he did not stop there. Zidane went further, much further, because afterwards he said something that has generated an earthquake, that, for him, Messi has been the best player in the history of Argentina. Of all time. The best. Above Maradona. Do you realize what that means? We are talking about a country where Diego Armando Maradona is practically a god. Where there is a church dedicated to Maradona. Where the hand of God and the goal of the century are part of the national DNA. And Zidane says that Messi is better. That Messi is the greatest that Argentina has ever produced. And he says it from the position of someone who faced Maradona, who grew up watching him, who knows perfectly what Maradona represented. And even so, he chooses Messi. That is a declaration of enormous power. And then Zidane added another phrase that is going to leave you nailed to the chair. He said that, for him, Messi is still the best player in the world. To this day, 39 years old, with tired legs, with the body asking for rest, Zidane considers that Messi is still the best on the planet. Think about that. In a world where there is Mbappe, where there is Bellingham, where there is Vinicius, where there is Haaland, Zidane looks at all those stars and says, no, the best is still Messi. And age does not matter. Injuries do not matter. Whether he plays in the MLS or wherever does not matter. For Zidane, Messi's quality is above everyone. And notice how beautiful what he said afterwards, because Zidane referred specifically to what Messi did in the 2026 World Cup. He said that what Messi demonstrated in that tournament made him very happy. Very happy. That's how he said it. That's seeing a player of that age compete at that level, do what he did, show that magic. That only he has filled him with joy. And it did not matter to him that Messi was a rival of France. It did not matter to him that Argentina and France have faced each other in decisive moments of the last World Cups. For Zidane, football is above the flags when we talk about someone like Messi. And then came the confession that no one expected. Zidane said just like that in public in front of all the cameras that he is a fan of Messi, that he always has been a fan, a guy who has won everything that can be won in football, who has been in the absolute elite, who has touched perfection as a player, says that he is a fan of another player. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how difficult it is for a footballer of Zidane's stature to publicly admit that he is a fan of someone? Normally, the great stars have an enormous ego, and rightly so, because they have done incredible things. But Zidane has no problem recognizing that there is someone who has made him enjoy like a child watching a football match, and that someone is Messi. And the final request, the finishing touch of everything, was this. Zidane asked Messi to keep shining inside the field, that he not go out yet, that the world of football needs him, that the children who are growing up now need to see Messi play to understand what magic is. that the new generations deserve the opportunity to see him live, to tell their children that they saw Messi play, and that for all that he asks him to reconsider his decision. Do you know what I tell you? That for me, this request from Zidane is one of the most beautiful moments that football has given in recent years, because it is pure, it is sincere, there is no interest behind it. There is no clause, no contract, no €1,000,000 at stake. It is simply a man who loves football asking another man who loves football not to leave yet. And that, in a sport where everything is measured in money, in transfers of €200 million, in clauses of €1,000 million, in salaries of €40 million a year, is tremendously refreshing. It is a reminder that underneath all the media circus, underneath all the egos, there is real passion. There is real love for this sport. And now that I have told you everything about Zidane, comes the second bomb. Comes the statement from Luis Diaz. And I warn you from now, what comes now is going to divide the comments in two. Get ready. Luis Diaz, the Colombian winger, one of the most talented stars of world football at this moment, gave an interview that has set absolutely everything on fire. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Social networks burning, debates on all the sports programs, comments for and against by the thousands and thousands. What did Luis Diaz say? Well, attention, because he was direct like a missile. The first thing Luis Diaz said is that Messi has been the best player in the world that he has seen play. Not one of the best, not in the top 3. No, the best. Without discussion, without nuances, without depending on how you look at it. For Luis Diaz, Messi is the absolute number 1, and that's final. And he said it with a conviction that leaves little room for debate. He said that since he has had footballing reason, since he started watching football as a child in Colombia and dreamed of being a professional, Messi has been the maximum reference, the measuring stick, the ceiling, the summit that everyone aspires to, but that no one reaches. But that was not the controversial part. The controversial part came afterwards, because they asked Luis Diaz about Cristiano Ronaldo. And there is where things got hot, very hot. Luis Diaz said, without blinking, that Messi is much better than Cristiano Ronaldo. Not a little better, not slightly above, much better. Just like that, with all the letters. And for me, as a football lover, that statement has enormous weight, because Luis Diaz is not a television commentator who opines just to opine. He is a professional footballer of the highest level who has competed in the Premier League, who has played against the best in the world, who knows what he is talking about because he lives it from the inside. And that footballer says that for him, Messi plays much more than Cristiano, that the difference is clear, that there is no possible comparison when you look at the complete set of what each one offers inside a field. And of course, when a player of Luis Diaz's stature says something like that, the world divides. Messi's fans explode with joy. See? Even the professionals say it. Cristiano's fans get furious. How dare he? Look at the goals, the champions, leagues, the records. And that debate, that crossfire, is exactly what makes this statement so powerful, because it leaves no one indifferent. Absolutely no one. Luis Diaz went further and said that he deeply regrets Messi's decision to retire, that it seems to him an irreparable loss for football, that the day Messi plays his last match, something is going to die inside the sport. And notice how interesting this that he added. He said that Messi has been the most difficult rival he has faced in his entire career. The most difficult. Not Mbappe, not Salah, not De Bruyne, not Haaland. Messi. With 30-something years, with the legs no longer as fresh as before, Messi is still the player who has given Luis Diaz the most problems when they have crossed on the field. And that says a lot, says a whole lot. Because if a young, fast, powerful footballer like Luis Diaz, a guy who runs like lightning and who dribbles past anyone, tells you that the hardest rival he has had is a player of almost 40 years, then that player is not normal. That player is from another planet. And here I want to make a pause because there is something that seems fundamental to me, and that I want you to reflect on with me. Two completely different people, from completely different contexts with completely different careers, have coincided on the same thing this week. Zidane, French legend of European football, one of the greatest midfielders in history, says that Messi is the best of Argentina of all time and that he is still the best in the world. Luis Diaz, Colombian, young, in the full bloom of his career, says that Messi is the best he has seen and that he is much better than Cristiano. Two different voices, two different generations, two different perspectives, and the same verdict. Does that not tell you something? Does that not make you think? Because I have it very clear. When those who have been on the field, those who have sweated the shirt, those who know what it costs to control a ball at 120 kilometers per hour with a defender on top of you, when those guys tell you unanimously that Messi is the best, you have to listen. You have to pay attention, because they are not opining from a sofa. They are speaking from experience, from the legs that tremble when they see Messi receive the ball with his back turned and turn around, from the panic of knowing that if you leave him a meter, he destroys the goal. That cannot be discussed with statistics or with graphs. That is lived. And those who have lived it tell you the same thing. Messi is not of this world. And now I am going to ask you the question that really matters. The question that I want you to answer me in the comments, because I want to read every one of your opinions. Is Zidane right? Should Messi reconsider his retirement and keep playing? Or do you think Messi has already given everything he had to give and that he deserves to rest? Think about it well, because there are arguments for both sides. On the one hand, who does not want to see Messi one more year? Who would not pay whatever it takes to see him one last time in a Clasico, in a Champions League knockout, in a national team match? But on the other hand, does this man not deserve to leave through the big door with the legacy intact, without us seeing him drag his legs around the field? Is it not better to leave too soon than too late? And the second question, which is even spicier, is Luis Diaz right when he says that Messi is much better than Cristiano Ronaldo? Or has he gone too far? Because saying better is one thing, but saying much better is a total declaration of war. Is putting an enormous distance between the two. It is saying that the debate, deep down, was never a real debate. And there are many people who are not going to agree with that. Because, look, I can understand that you prefer Messi. I can understand that you think Messi has more natural talent, more creativity, more magic. But much better? Can we say much better about a guy who has 5 Champions Leagues? About a guy who has scored more than 900 goals as a professional? About a guy who has won leagues in England, in Spain, in Italy? About a guy who has the record for goals in national teams? Cristiano Ronaldo is not just any player. He is a machine. He is a colossal competitor. And even though I have my opinion, and even though many professionals like Luis Diaz or like Zidane lean towards Messi, one has to have enough respect to recognize that Cristiano is a legend, with capital letters, and that the debate is legitimate, and that it will probably never be resolved completely, and that, for me, is the beautiful thing about football, that we can argue about who is the best for hours and hours and never agree. But notice something very interesting. Luis Diaz did not only say that Messi is better, he said that Messi plays much more than Cristiano, and that nuance is important, because playing more is not only scoring goals. Playing more is how you touch the ball, how you create spaces, how you invent plays that do not exist, how you make everyone around you better. And in that, let's be honest, Messi has always been one step above. It is not a question of goals or of titles. It is a question of how you play football, of how you interpret this sport. And Messi has interpreted it like no one else. There has never been anyone who did the things that Messi does with a ball. Never. And probably there never will be. And there is another thing that I want you to think about, because I think it is very relevant. Luis Diaz said that Messi has been the most difficult rival of his career, not a teammate, a rival, someone who was on the opposing team and who generated more problems for him than any other footballer. Do you realize the power of that? Luis Diaz has played against Salah in Liverpool, training every day. He has faced the best defenders of the Premier League, weekend after weekend. He has measured himself against the stars of the Champions League. And with all that and with that, the one who made him suffer the most was Messi. Messi, who had already passed 35 when they faced each other. A Messi who was supposedly already on the way back. And even so, he was the most difficult. That tells you everything you need to know about the dimension of Leo Messi as a footballer. And I want to close with this because I think it is the best summary of this whole story. What we have seen this week with Zidane and with Luis Diaz is not simply a series of nice statements about a player who is retiring. It is something bigger. It is the testament of an era. It is the definitive recognition that we have lived something unrepeatable, that we have had the absolute privilege, the colossal luxury of seeing Leo Messi play, of seeing him live or on TV, of arguing about him, of defending him or of criticizing him, of getting emotional with his goals, of crying with his defeats and of shouting with his victories. We have been witnesses of something that is not going to return. And when in 30 or 40 years our grandchildren ask us, "Grandpa, who was Messi?" we are going to tell them stories that they are not going to believe. We are going to talk to them about a short kid from Rosario who took the ball and left 5 rivals sitting. We are going to talk to them about a left foot that seemed to have a GPS built in. We are going to talk to them about a shy genius who let his football speak for him. And we are going to tell them that Zidane, the very same Zidane, asked him not to leave, that Zidane asked him to keep playing, and that Luis Diaz said that he was, without any doubt, the best he had ever seen. That is Messi. That is what is leaving. And that is what we are never going to see again. Now it is your turn. Leave me your opinion in the comments. Do you think Messi should listen to Zidane and rethink the retirement? Or do you think it is already the moment? And what do you say about Luis Diaz thing? Is he right when he says that Messi is much better than Cristiano? Or has he gone overboard? I want to read every one of your comments, every opinion.